What's up, everybody? Welcome to the first ever episode of Mount Josmore. If you know me and you've followed me at all, I have been doing podcasting and stuff for a long time, starting with my original show called The Jaws of Life, which is somewhere on YouTube still. Broke that off into multiple different avenues of audio podcasting, from Tip of the Cap, which was and still kind of is about prep baseball in Western New York, stuff like that. And then broke that into Hats, Tats, and Stats, the long-running Common Debauchery, a short-lived one called The Podducers. From there, Podducers went under because my co-host had a kid and was too busy, which is completely understandable. And I've always loved doing podcasting, and I had a conversation recently with my friend Matt Johnson, who has helped me quite a bit through my podcasting journey. And he has recently moved one of his shows to YouTube, and his Eat, Sleep, List show. He's been doing that. He says had been having a lot of fun doing it on YouTube. So I decided, you know what? He didn't talk me into it. He gave me the idea, and kind of went into the whole thing of, trying to do something on YouTube and moving forward. It stemmed off me asking a question about listenership, because I was shocked to see that some of my old shows that I no longer do still have quite a substantial following and listening audience currently, at least according to the website that we're on. Which, speaking of which, if you want to check out any of my other audio podcasts, Tip of the Cap podcast, Hats, Tats, and Stats, The Jaws of Life, Common Debauchery, The Podducers, and Jaws Talk Sports, all on the BICBP Radio Network, bicbp-radio.com. But we're doing Mount Josmore, right? Mount Josmore is basically a list or ranking show that basically, the idea of it is I'm picking my top four, whether you want to call them goats, boats. I will use both interchangeably. The greatest of all time, the best of all time. I really like boat, because nobody uses it. But it's my top four of something. And in talking about doing this and how what I wanted this show to be, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go with it. So what I'm going to do is, I kind of explain how we got here, and then I will get into my first Mount Josmore. Mount Josmore coming from the Mount Rushmore of things. It's a common thing you hear, especially on sports shows and sports talk and things like that. Like, who is your Mount Rushmore of this? Who are your big four? As you can see from my little self-created logo down here, I used Mount Rushmore, put my face on it a bunch of times, and why not? It's Mount Josmore. One of the big things here is, this is solely my opinion. I will back my opinion with everything I can, and whether it's, based emotionally, statistically, factually, whatever, it's my opinion. At the end of the day, this is my list, which means I can't miss. If you disagree, feel free to comment on it. Feel free to, let me know in any way, shape, or form that you don't agree and why. The only thing I ask is that you keep it respectful. I will tell people that they suck. I will, advise that I don't like one thing or another for any particular reason. But it's meant mostly in jest, and I do just humbly request that you keep the commentary on any of this, within reason. I think in 2025, we've gotten to a place where we are very comfortable saying whatever we want behind a fake avatar profile picture and a comment on something. So, I know I'm probably running my head against the wall on that one, but try to, if possible, keep it civil in the comment section. If you don't agree with something, that's your right. I'm not going to change your mind. But again, it's my list and I can't miss. So let's, we're not going to get started yet. But basically, I decided when I was doing this that I wanted to, I liked the idea of rankings and listings and stuff like that. But I was like, where do I start? Right? Where do I go? Where do I start with this entire thing? And the place that I decided to start, with the help of my friend Matt, was my Mount Rushmore of the big four sporting leagues in the United States. that being the NFL, the MLB, the NHL, and the NBA. And it took me a minute to get through this because a couple of those are pretty easy. Like on paper, they are pretty easy. And I'll go through the easy ones first. And then it gets more complicated for different reasons. And basically, so I'm going to go, you know what, let's just get started and see where we go with this. So first and foremost, the easiest one, in my opinion, is the NFL. Sorry, my brain stopped there. You guys will notice that I do struggle with some ADHD issues, so I just kind of blanked out there. The easiest one, in my opinion, is the NFL. And this man ruined my childhood as a Bills fan. As a Bills fan, I grew up for 20 years, damn near, watching Tom Brady ruin my life as a Bills fan. And then watching him win how many Super Bowls and go to how many more. It's sad to me that my affinity for Eli Manning comes from the fact that he beat Tom Brady in the Super Bowl twice. So all that being said, I mean, I watched this man get call after call, get bailed out. It's likened to what people currently feel about Mahomes and the Chiefs. The problem is it is so much more in your face right now because of social media. And because there were stints that there would be a year or two in between, the Patriots making the Super Bowl, where, I mean, they've been to 3 straight now. And it just, they lose key pieces and they somehow got better. It's weird. I understand where you're coming from with that. This was my entire childhood. And the dude was in my division. It's bad enough that Mahomes is in my conference. This dude was in my division. I remember being at a Monday Night Football game watching, Terrell Owens catch a bomb running into the end zone that I was sitting in and going nuts because we were gonna. This was the year we were setting the tone on Monday Night Football. We were gonna beat the Patriots, and we lost. It was brutal. Maybe I'm misremembering the game. It was a while ago, but it happened a lot. Tom Brady ruined my childhood on countless occasions. All of that being said, I can't hold that personally against him. As much as I would sit there in the time of Brady sucks. Brady didn't suck. And for a while you sat there and you said, well, it's coaching. It's the scheme. Matt Castle went out and almost won an AFC championship game. And had he won that game and won the Super Bowl, Tom Brady would have been sent the way of Drew Bledsoe when Brady Bledsoe. If you understand the reference, I appreciate that. He would be nothing without Belichick. And I think it's kind of been shown that Belichick would have been nothing without Brady. I think that was a perfect match. But the fact that Brady, after 18 years or whatever it was, went somewhere else and went to one of the more talented rosters he played on, a stout defense, 2 good receivers, playoff Leonard Fournette, but still went and won a Super Bowl. I mean, one of them, when Brady and Belichick split up, one of them did far better than the other. When that union was no longer unionized, when they were no longer together, one of them did better than the other. Tom Brady won that. And because of that, because of the amount of wins, the Super Bowls, the records, just the insane career the man had over how long that he had it, Tom Brady is the GOAT, the boat, the luxury sea liner, any other whatever. It's Tom Brady in the NFL. End of conversation. And so part of the reason I chose to do sports here, to dial back, and forgive me, my brain's a little scattered right now. One, because I wanted to get this done over the weekend. I didn't get it done. Then I had to do some figuring with my recording stuff here. It's kind of that season. The NFL, Super Bowl was a month ago. We're hitting free agency. The draft is coming up. And it's still fresh and dominant on people's minds. The NBA and the NHL are reaching playoff time, and MLB is just starting to warm up. We're in spring training, and games that mean something will be starting soon. All 160 something of them. So that's kind of it was a fun topical spot. All 4 major sports are still active or becoming active in people's world. So we're kind of what's going with that. That was where I was coming with it on this. So. There's my NFL. That one's pretty easy. And you can not like Tom Brady. You can be like me, who he ruined your childhood but you can't deny that anyone has done it better. Peyton was close. Statistically, Breeze was close, but the man has the stats. The man has the records. The man has the championships. It's disgusting. It's hard to argue with. And right now, the only one who has a shot to dethrone him is Mahomes. But, he's got some work to do still. As good as Mahomes has been, if you take Tom Brady out of the NFL, Mahomes is probably near the top of the conversation already, and he's still playing and still young, which pisses me off. But that's beside the point. But you can't deny that Tom Brady is probably that guy. I really don't think you can. So that one for me was pretty easy. The next one is going to be the NHL. Now, there are a lot of guys that you can probably have a conversation about this. Dominik Hasek comes to mind, and if you know me, I hate Dominik Hasek. So don't sit here and give me this Sabres homer stuff, because I do not like Dominik Hasek. It pisses me off that his number is retired. His name is in our rafters. He would have been nothing without Buffalo, and he went on to win a Stanley Cup or two with Detroit, barely playing in both seasons. He wins it, and then I will always be a Red Wing. Loser. One of, if not the greatest, easily the greatest goalie of his generation. At one point, the best goalie in the world. One of the best goalies of all time. But one of, in your position, to me, does not a GOAT make. And I'm a big goalie guy. You could make the argument for Patrick Waugh. And this will come back into another sport down the road here. You could make the argument for Patrick Waugh. But again, he's a goalie. And if you're going to have the conversation about him, you got to have the conversation about Hasek and Brodeur. And that entire era really just had insane amount of elite goalies. And with that being said, the NFL, it was easy. The NHL, like a quarterback with the NFL, with a quarterback, he touches the ball in every single play. He is the most important man. Goalies can win games by making 19 saves on 20 shots. There were times that Hasek stood on his head and made 40 and still won 1-0. Brodeur, easily one of the best of all time. Easily. But he also played in a system where he didn't face a ton of shots. They locked down defense. They played that New Jersey trap. And at the end of the day, you can't, to me, it can't be a goalie. Because a goalie cannot win a game on his own. If he doesn't let in a single goal, but you don't score, you don't win. It's tough for a goalie to be the GOAT of a sport as a whole. You look through and, you look at guys, you got Gordie Howe. He's got an off-brand hat trick named after him. A fight, a goal, and an assist. You got a Gordie Howe hat trick because the dude did it all. He fought, he dished the puck, he buried the puck. The dude was good. Bobby Orr is up in that conversation. You could have conversations about a lot of these guys. At the end of the day, my NHL GOAT is easy. You know why? Because it's in the nickname. He's the great one. It's Wayne Gretzky. Nobody but. You don't wear number 99 in hockey without. You could go play bar league hockey. You put the number 99 on your back, you're putting a target on your back because you're insulting the great one. You can wear any other number in hockey. You wear 99, someone's laying you out. Someone's taking your whole top row because you're insulting the great one. And there's no such thing as the great one of bar league. Sorry, boys. But yeah, so those two for me, pretty easy, pretty simple across the board. Makes it. They made it easy with their careers. I mean, Ovechkin is, I think, probably 10 goals at this point away from breaking Gretzky's scoring record. And Gretzky wasn't known as much as a scorer as he was, the assist machine. They refer to the area behind the net that is now encompassed by the trapezoid that the goalies have to stay in if they go play the puck as Gretzky's office. That's where he worked. Excuse me. So, yeah, cool. Like Ovechkin, one of the best to ever do it, is approaching his goal record. I don't know. I didn't do a whole ton of research on this, as far as the numbers and stuff, because I don't want to bore you with statistics that you can easily look up on your own. But I'm going to assume that, you know, Gretzky's appeal was more in the assists, and I don't know that anybody will touch that record. No. I think it would be funny if somebody looked and maybe Gretzky doesn't have that record, but what do I know? It's also funny to me, and this will tell you how good Wayne Gretzky is. Wayne and his brother Brett are the highest scoring, like point total, overall points, brothers in NHL history. The Sedins are number 2. There's a significant difference between, excuse me, between the Gretzkys and the Sedins. And that's with Brett having 4 points. Brett Gretzky, 4 points. And the Gretzky brothers outscored the Sedin brothers by a couple hundred points. It could be like 600. I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but it's not 1 or 2. It's not 1 or 2 points. That's how good Wayne Gretzky was. That him and his brother, who tallied 4 total points in his career, are the highest point total scoring brothers in NHL history. That's a wild stat. Look it up. Google highest point totals amongst the 2 brothers in NHL history. It's the Gretzkys, and Brett Gretzky has 4. 4. That's why Wayne is the great one, and that's why he's on Mount Josmore as the representative of the GOAT of the NHL. This is where we hit a point where things get a little more dicey. Okay? I am not an NBA fan. I'm barely a basketball fan. I will watch basketball during March Madness if it's on. Like I don't set time aside to watch college basketball. I don't like basketball. The NBA, to me, has ruined basketball for me. I can tolerate NCAA basketball because it's competitive and they play defense and they push each other. I have trouble wrapping my head around the fact that a good college basketball game that is tightly contested ends like 89-88, and your average NBA game 123 to 119. Like you look at some college scores, and college scores regularly get up, for football, get into the 40s and 50s, sometimes 60s. You're going to have a game that's 72 to 49. You're not going to tell me that the talent disparity between the NBA and NCAA is so big that there's a 40-point swing when the pros do it. When the pros do it, there's a 40 points more per team than when the college guys do it. They don't play defense. They literally, and the sad part is the level of defense they don't play gets amplified when you look at the NBA All-Star game. When you have guys, like when you have somebody like Steph Curry just pulling up at half court and hitting 19 half court shots in a game because he's uncontested, he pulls up and he just drills it because he can. And that shows you that it could be worse. The reason it's not is because they decided that, okay, we're going to try to run plays, get it closer to make easier shots. We're not going to let him pull up at half court and take uncontested shots, because once he does it once or twice, we're going to press him a little bit, not let him do it. Okay, so that's the defense you play? Come on. 40-point swing. That being said, I don't like basketball. I'm not a big basketball guy, but the NBA is, in fact, one of the big 4 in the United States. I do hope someday that the PLL pushes that. I think that would be fun. But shout out to the Pro Lacrosse League. It's a kind of a mix between indoor and outdoor. You have your pros that play in the NLL, the indoor league that the Bandits are from, plus some of these dudes that are in college coming out. And, they have long poles, they run around, they hit. It's fun. It's a good time. I've watched some of it. There's no, cities don't have teams. They kind of barnstorm through the country. They have, I don't know the team names. We're not going to get into it too terribly deep. Look it up. Basically, it's like the Warriors versus the Knights, and they're not, from anywhere. They're not the Buffalo Warriors, the Buffalo Knights. They're just the Knights. And they have a club, they have a team, it's set up, but they don't have a home base. And the league travels throughout the country. And this weekend we're in Philly. Next weekend we're in Pittsburgh. The following weekend we're in Syracuse. Then we're going out west and we're going to be in San Francisco. And that's how they play their league. And the entire league plays every weekend in the city, in one city. It's awesome. It's great. Highly recommend. Any upstart league out there, I think that is the move. This way you're not dependent on your market to keep you alive. You're dependent on the entire country to keep you alive. Anyway, back to basketball. This was tough for me. One, because I don't really know basketball to the extent that I knew hockey at one point, and then I know football. But it's also tough because the game has changed a little bit. And you could make arguments for guys like Magic Johnson, I believe. There are people out there who would say that there was nobody better than Larry Bird at one point. But when I look at this, for me, it's who put basketball on the map in my world. And I really believe that when you have the conversation between the big two, and really there could be a big three. I don't think Kobe gets the love that he deserves outside of, people love Kobe. People are all about Kobe. But they don't put him in the category of GOAT. He's Kobe to me feels like Peyton to Tom Brady, right? Like Peyton was great and people love him, but you just can't put him up there for whatever reason. He's just that notch right below for no reason. But when I look at this, when I was growing up, I knew of basketball because of this big dude from Orlando named Shaq. And I knew of basketball even more because of this dude named Michael Jordan. And so much so that the dude was put in a Looney Tunes basketball movie that was really good. And ever since then, everyone else is getting compared to him, including LeBron. And that is the current argument. MJ or LeBron, MJ or LeBron, MJ or LeBron. And I look at this and, I knew who Scottie Pippen was because he played with Jordan. I knew who Dennis Rodman was because he played with Jordan. I then know who Dennis Rodman was because he did a stint with the NWO back in the Monday Night War era, but that's another story for another time. All of this being said, the easy answer is one of those two. And that's my answer, is one of those two. And my one is Michael Jordan. It's got to be. One, because I grew up when MJ was a kid, or when I was a kid, MJ was the man. The Michael Jordan flu game gets talked about across all different sports. Like, oh, this could be so and so's flu game, flu game, and you know what they're referencing. The argument came across. I did discuss this with a couple buddies of mine, and the answer came up like a lot of them lean toward LeBron. And when you look at the numbers and stuff like that, LeBron has more. He also had a longer career, right? So like Michael Jordan at one point took a couple years off to go play baseball, which was a exercise in futility. Took a couple, he came back, he was okay. And then he was traded and he came back wearing number 45 because his number had been retired or something. I don't remember the exact how it all went down, but he wasn't quite the same. But when you look at him in his prime, I mean, longevity to me, bulk stats to me don't always tell the whole story. Being able to do it over a long period of time is a bonus. But when you look at it for me, like MJ played every day. There were no break days. There were no days off. There were no games off. He played every game he was available for. If he didn't play, it's because he was hurt, legitimately hurt. Not I need a break today. Like that to me changes things. You can't. LeBron is able to play longer because he doesn't play every day. He is not playing every game. He takes games off. He takes, he may only play half a game today. And how long has that been happening? I don't know. I know it's a common conversation now, but how long has that been happening where he gets taken off the court for extended periods of time to rest up. And like eventually, there are guys you could look at in any sport who have better numbers, quote unquote, because they played longer, but it doesn't mean they were a better player. Like Ryan Fitzpatrick comes to mind in the NFL. I love Fitzy, right? Fitzmagic's the man. And when you look at his numbers, like, oh, those are impressive numbers. And you realize, like, those numbers per season and per game aren't that great. But he played for 14 seasons. He's the equivalent to, like, you could find a guy who's an equivalent to that played 7 seasons that has a half or less of the numbers because he only played half the time. Like, he only played half the number of seasons. And I think that's kind of where we're at with LeBron with some of these numbers that we're talking about. I also don't know, LeBron came in out of high school, right? Like there was that big to-do that he came to the NBA out of high school where, MJ started later. He started out of college. Then there's the rumor that, when he was younger, he got cut from his JV team and he was told he'd never make it. And now he's Michael frickin' Jordan. But I mean, like I only know who, like, not I only know, but I only knew of the Carolina Tar Heels as a prominent basketball program because of Michael Jordan. Every kid growing up had Bulls stuff because of Michael Jordan. And say what you will about him. To me, it's got to be Michael. It's got to be. It's hard not to say Michael Jordan here. And I'm sure this will be one if people get to this point in the video, and this will be the big one that gets argued, in my opinion, because it's a very hot topic forever. Every time LeBron does something, it sparks the LeBron or Michael conversation. For me, we're talking Michael Jordan, right? It is Michael Jordan. So right now, on my Mount Josmore for the Big Four, you've got Tom Brady from the NFL, the great one, not the wrestling great one, the real great one, in Wayne Gretzky for the NHL, and we got Michael Jordan for the NBA. And that leads me to my favorite sport, right? I'm a big NFL guy, but I'm a bigger baseball guy. And the GOAT of the MLB conversation, this one is so tough. And I've had this conversation with quite a few people, right? And just to kind of get an idea where people's heads were at. And names that came up were, Derek Jeter. He was one that came up for a few people. The big thing for me with Jeter is the fact that he, like, it's like statistically, in modern statistics and modern metrics, it's come out and been like, well, he wasn't really that good, right? Like, he was an average hitter. He didn't do anything over the top, but he played on the Yankees when the Yankees were really, really, really good. And he was surrounded by really, really good players. And he made, everyone knows what the Jeter throw is. You plant your foot, jump in the air, turn and, rotate your turret and let it fly. We've all seen the video of him making a play on a ball in the middle of nowhere to flip the ball to home plate to get an out at the plate in a World Series game. Like, we've all seen it. If I described it to you, I'm pretty sure it was against the A's. If you're a baseball person, you know the play. And, that play is one of those all-timers. That's one of those, how did we get here type plays. And when you're like, why was the shortstop in foul territory on the first base side to make that play? Well, Jeter's instincts took him there. And, whether or not how the who, what, where, when, why, but we all know that play. Derek Jeter, in my opinion, is a great candidate for this. Known in one of the most historic organizations as the captain. The captain. But then you start talking about some of these other things. Like some of the other guys that played for the Yankees over the years. Babe Ruth comes to mind. I mean, Babe Ruth is... everyone knows who the Babe is, right? Most people know who Derek Jeter is. Everyone knows who Babe Ruth is. You probably could have never, ever, ever seen baseball a day in your life, but you know who Babe Ruth is. Because he was the first athlete, in my opinion, that probably transcended the game, right? and we had the long-standing home run record. He pitched. He would pitch and hit and everything. But then you realize the era he played in. And would he have been able to do either of those things in the modern era? You could argue, and I hate the era conversation, but with baseball, there's so many. There are so many. Babe Ruth. When Barry Bonds was chasing greatness and looking to break the home run record, he was walking out to the outfield, and there was a sign across the outfield that Ruth did it on hot dogs and beer. The dude was overweight, drunk. Like, there's a movie about it. John Goodman plays Babe Ruth. Tells you all you need to know, right? And so that one's tough for me. Anybody who played before the color barrier in baseball was broken, that one's tough for me. Some of your best pitchers in the world weren't even in the league. That one's tough. I don't know if you can sell me that one. You look at some like the dead ball era. During the dead ball era, how many guys' offensive stats were negatively impacted because the ball just didn't go anywhere off the bat? Guys barrel the crap out of one, and it just looks like a dying quail over the infield. The steroid era, how many guys' stats were inflated because of that? I don't know. I was a huge Mark McGwire guy, big Mark McGwire fan growing up. War number 25, as you can see up here. 25 still one of my numbers. 25 was my baseball number. Big Mark McGwire guy. Helps that it's also my birthday, but that's beside the point. But are McGwire or Sosa in the conversation for the GOAT? No. I don't think you can. I don't think it can be a pitcher. Nolan Ryan would probably be a great example, but it can't be a pitcher. You only throw once a week. 162 games. There are guys who had this conversation over the past week when I was in Florida coaching with a former 12-year MLB pitcher. We were talking about the fact that there is a guy who has more losses in his career due to the longevity and the amount of games he pitched than most guys have wins. And he's like the 14th. He's one of the winningest pitchers in Major League Baseball history. Like, he has won more games than most pitchers hope to throw in a career. He has more losses than most guys have wins, solely based on volume. But the fact that he was able to do that is insane. Now you start thinking, the days of a 9-inning complete game are gone. They're rare as all hell this year. In this day and age in the game, they used to be a thing all the time, right? There are recorded instances of guys getting 2 wins on the same day because they pitched 18 innings that day and they got both wins. They just rolled through it. I don't know. I don't make the rules, but it's hard for me to say a pitcher deserves to be the GOAT or the BOAT of baseball because you got a 5-man rotation and a whole bullpen. Mariano Rivera would be a fantastic example of this. One of, if not the greatest closer the game has ever seen. His job only matters if the game is close in late innings. Pitchers as a whole, once a week, once every 5 to 6 days. There's 4 games in between there that you don't matter. You're not even on the field. Catchers are the most important position on the field, in my opinion. If you have great pitching and average catching, you have average pitching, period. Jorge Posada, one of the best offensive catchers to ever play the game, by the end of his career had his pitchers who he had caught for forever no longer wanted to throw to him because he cost them strikes. They didn't trust him to do the job. So for me, all of those things are tough to make pitchers the guy. And, catchers are the most important position on the field, but I don't know that any one of them has full on stood out. You're either an offensive catcher or a defensive catcher. So you got that guy that comes out, hits bombs, big bat, but maybe he struggles a little bit behind the dish, or got a big arm, can block everything, fantastic glove work, but, offensively, I don't know, maybe not so much. This was tough. This was really, really, really tough. And I'm going to come out with a debatably controversial take on my GOAT of baseball. I may have my baseball card, my baseball fandom taken away for this. for me, it's not Pete Rose. It's, Charlie Hustle. But it's got to be Barry Bonds. Barry was really, really, really good before the whole steroid thing. He would have been, he was a 40-40 guy before any of it. And then say what you will about the juice. If you're going to talk, if you're going to consider everything, right? If you're going to consider Babe, you got to, you got to consider all the eras. And if you are talking about the single best to ever do it, we're like Cal Ripken, nobody will ever break his Ironman record. Nobody. That one will stand forever. Was he the best? I don't know. I'm a big Chipper Jones fan growing up. Was he the best ever? I don't know. A dude demolished the home run record, right? So McGwire and Sosa both broke it, and then Bonds demolished it. And he was a 40-40 guy before that. And he was an everyday player because he was in the National League. So he had to play the outfield. He was one of the only really good players on that team. They didn't have to pitch to him because there was nobody behind him. And he still broke these records. The dude was so good. There were times they walked in a run intentionally walking him so he wouldn't hit a grand slam. That is a level of respect that no one else has ever gotten. The man has more walks than most people have hits. The man has more walks than most people have plate appearances. He is the home run king. And before the whole steroid thing, he was still a 40-40 guy. He was swiping bags. He was putting the ball in play. He was hitting bombs. Say what you will about the steroid thing. The man was really, really, really good. And then he became the most prolific home run hitter in history. How he did it, that's up for discussion. But I don't know that there's been a better baseball player out there. Ken Griffey Jr. would have 100% been on the top of this list had he stayed healthy, in my opinion. I just don't know that there's really anyone else. I mean, Pete Rose's hit record will struggle to be touched. That's up there with the Ironman record. But when you think about how amazing some of the numbers surrounding Barry Bonds are, it's hard when you take the objective view of that. It's hard not to be like, holy crap. It really is. And I struggle with that. I did not want it to be Barry. But the more I thought about it, the more it had to be. I couldn't keep arguing with myself about it. All right. So that is the end of Mount Josmore number 1. If you made it this far, thanks for tuning in, guys. Just want to wrap up by saying thank you for tuning in. I hope to do this every week to every other week to have it drop. I have a lot of different topics planned. I don't know that this will ever be something I have a co-host on, but maybe. We'll see. And again, if you don't like it, feel free to comment. Tell me why I'm wrong, but try to keep it respectful. And I just wanted to close this out by saying, you know what, for those of you out there who are tuning in that maybe you're struggling with a little bit of something, maybe going through some tough times, I just want to remind you that bad times don't last. It can't rain forever. You're going to be okay. It's okay to feel everything, but it's not okay to quit. So thanks for tuning in, guys. Thanks for checking out the first ever episode of Mount Josmore. I'll smooth out the kinks on this as we go. So thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you next time.